2 weeks later, I went grocery shopping, and on my way back, I was kidnapped by 3 guys.
If you don't give us our share, you are dead meat.
I was tied to a chair every night and tortured. One day, they forgot to tie me up, and I escaped through the window. My parents were so happy to see me again, but I had bruises and was too scared to step outside again. One day, Sally suddenly showed up in my window. I was scared to see her. Hi guys, I'm Jenny, and I almost got arrested for a crime which my twin sister committed. My parents had been shocked when the ultrascan revealed that they were having identical twins. They absolutely weren't expecting 2, so they'd bought things for just 1 child. It had been so hard to get matching items after the scan, but they'd managed to get everything before we came. When people saw us, they were always amused. We were so identical that our parents had to give me a mark on my right leg to differentiate us. Well, you'd have thought it would be so cute when we grew up, but the reverse was the case. My sister Sally was the embodiment of mischief. She was always committing one crime or the other, and mostly the blame fell on me. One time, around the age of 7, my sister had poured over half of our cereal away. When she came to get me in our room, I followed her as quickly as I could to help her with it. While gathering the cereal carefully, my sister excused herself to use the restroom. However, she didn't return alone. She came with my parents. When they asked about who did it, Sally pointed at me. I tried to deny it, but the circumstances all pointed at me as the culprit. I was punished for it, and that made me feel so sad and betrayed. However, that night, she apologized to me with the excuse that she was scared of getting punished. I forgave her, knowing how weak she was when it came to punishments. Unfortunately, she never stopped. Sally would make mistakes and blame everything on me. I would take it without complaining because there was no way I could prove that she was wrong. She did it at school once, and I nearly hated her for it. I was in my class when a senior student suddenly walked in with a professor. He pointed at me immediately.
That's her. She's the one who assaulted and beat us up.
I'd never seen that senior in my entire life, so I knew it wasn't me but Sally. I turned to her for a moment and saw that she was trying to hide her face. I rolled my eyes, tired of keeping up with her shitty attitude. I faced the senior and professor and told them they were mistaken. The professor refused to listen and instead took Sally and I with him. When he got to his office, we were made to stand while he called our parents. I felt so disappointed, knowing he would call my name first. Well, he ended up just saying the twins. He asked about where we were the previous day. My parents told him that I was home with them while my sister was out studying. He then asked what we were wearing, and my parents told him. Then it was out that Sally did it. Rather than take responsibility for her actions, Sally began crying.
Jenny made me do it. She said she hates him and asked me to help her beat him up.
I was dumbfounded. I knew she was lying because she didn't want to be punished alone. But I couldn't afford to allow myself to be punished for something I had zero idea about. I asked the senior if we'd ever spoken, and he shook his head negatively. His response made it even worse, and I immediately regretted why I asked.
I have never spoken to either of you in my entire life. She suddenly came to attack me.
I knew I was done for. Him confirming that he'd never spoken to us made it sound like I truly hated him, and saying my sister suddenly attacked him, alongside her statement, made it seem true. The professor asked me why I sent my sister to beat someone up, but I denied. It hurt so much to see my sister continuously lying against me in such a situation. I was forced to call on my classmates for help. Thankfully, all of them attested to me being a good and peaceful girl. One of them, fortunately, had seen Sally watching the senior about thrice. The girl who confessed to having seen Sally was the head of our class, and the professor trusted her words to be true. With the evidence now pointing at her, Sally confessed.
I'm so sorry. I didn't intend to beat him up. I also didn't intend to lie against you, Jenny. Please, forgive me. It will never repeat itself. I don't know what came over me. Forgive me, please.
We were all deceived by her tears. I was forced to forgive her. After all, she's my twin. The professor also apologized to the senior, who forgave Sally too. He felt bad to see her crying. After we left the professor's office, Sally burst out laughing. I was shocked.
Oh my God, I can't believe they folded so quickly. Whoa, tears surely work every time.
My mouth hung open in pure surprise. She was crying just a few minutes ago. I was afraid to even speak to her. At that moment, she seemed so dangerous to me. I avoided her for the rest of that day. It got to a point where I began to hate the fact that we were twins because Sally kept getting us in trouble. And most of the time, she twisted the blame to fall on me. She got to know the power of her tears and never failed to use it. I felt so bad that we were twins. After our high school graduation, we began preparing for business school like we've always planned. Well, not always, because Sally was against furthering her education after high school. She still maintained her stance when our parents informed us about wanting to start searching for a good college for us.
I'm not gonna waste my time doing that. I want to open a tattoo parlor. Got it? I don't want to sit behind computers all day. I don't have the brains for that.
If you won't do business, then think of something else. I won't allow you to start a tattoo parlor. That's ridiculous.
I agree. I can't let you waste your life like that.
Well, it's my life, isn't it? Let me live it, okay?
I was surprised to see her speak to our parents in that manner. Even worse, we woke up the next day to find her room nearly empty. Her bags were gone, and so were most of her things. My parents were confused. They looked for her everywhere they could, but couldn't find her. The few of her friends we knew, we checked their homes, but she wasn't in any. We were all devastated. My parents blamed themselves for being the reason for her disappearance. I tried to comfort them, but even I was not doing okay. It felt like a part of me had been stolen. After a whole year passed, we stopped looking for her. We'd involved the police earlier, but they couldn't find her. We concluded that she didn't want us to find her and had hidden herself properly, so we stopped looking. I'd registered at the business school already and was facing life as a college student. Contrary to what I'd thought, business wasn't so hard. In fact, I was thankful to my parents for helping me make that decision. Life kept going until my first month in year 3. I suddenly got a strange mail delivered to the house. I read it and was filled with fear. It was a stranger threatening to kill me. I was afraid. I always avoided getting into fights or even offending people. So who could be trying to kill me? I showed it to my parents, who asked me to wave it off, saying that it could be someone playing pranks on me. I believed that for the first 2 times. But when the letters kept coming afterward, I knew it wasn't a prank. Someone was after me. I decided to write back to the sender, asking who they were and what they wanted. Their next letter answered my questions. Apparently, they knew Sally a year back, and she'd joined them in a robbery attack, but she absconded with all of the money and they were out to kill her. I begged them, telling them I'm not Sally, but they refused to understand and asked me to pay for it. They didn't care if I was Sally or not. All they wanted was their money. As if that wasn't enough, I was returning home one day from school when a woman suddenly began harassing me. She grabbed me by my shirt, requesting for some money. I was embarrassed and pushed her off. "Who are you? I don't owe you."
Shut up, Sally, you liar! Pay me my money this minute or I'm calling the cops on you.
I was so confused. The woman refused to believe that I wasn't Sally. Eventually, we found ourselves at the station. There, the police listened to our stories and figured out that I wasn't Sally. The woman apologized to me in tears. According to her, Sally had scammed her and her husband of $3,000 she promised to be surrogate for them and then disappeared. The cops promised to find Sally and get her money. Once the lady left, I reported the case of the unknown males, and the cops promised to look into it. I dropped my contacts before leaving. When I explained to my parents, they were downcast and felt bad for me. 2 weeks later, I went grocery shopping, and on my way back, I was kidnapped by 3 guys.
If you don't give us our share, you are dead meat.
I was tied to a chair every night and tortured. One day, they forgot to tie me up, and I escaped through the window. My parents were so happy to see me again, but I had bruises and was too scared to step outside again. One day, Sally suddenly showed up in my window. I was scared to see her. She looked so tattered. I opened the window and let her in, but she pushed me back and brought a knife to my throat.
I need to hide here for 2 days. If you tell anyone I'm here, I'll kill you. Got it?
I froze in shock. I was so scared, so I agreed to be quiet. She slept in my room that night. I didn't ask anything. I was too scared to speak. When I prepared to leave for school the next morning, she warned me again against telling anyone, and I promised to be quiet. But I lied. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't afford to be blamed for her mistakes every time. My life was at risk too. She needed to be punished. I didn't go straight to school. Instead, I stopped by the station. I told the cops that Sally was at my house, and they assigned 2 cops to go with me. Sally trusted me, so she was caught off guard when 2 cops burst into my room and arrested her. On our way back to the station, I called our parents, and we all met at the station. After days of investigation, it was discovered that Sally had been involved in robbery, kidnapping, and scamming. The cops were able to arrest all of her fellow robbers in a month, and they were charged to court. They all had multiple crime cases. Sally, for her 3 cases, got 30 years imprisonment. As the cops took her away, she kept screaming her apologies to us, especially me. And that moved me to tears. But how was I sure she was truly sorry? She has always been so cunning. But in the end, she got what she deserved. I couldn't afford to have my life endangered because of her. After that, my parents and I lived a happy life. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying, "I subscribed," and we'll do our best to reply to your comment.